Hey guys, IceWire here and welcome to a Bloodlines 2 video. We have some information at long last about what the beginning of the game is going to be like and more specifically what was shown at the private press demo. Now if you want to go into this blind as a bat, there will be some spoilers for the beginning of the game, but just that only. And there was also some information about one of the new clans that has been revealed, but I'll cover that in a later video in the weekend. With that in mind, you have been forewarned, so let's just jump right into it. The following information comes from a PC Gamer article. Bloodlines 2 opens with a direct callback to the original. Your character, whose appearance and backstory can be customized before the game starts, awakens on the floor of what appears to be a courthouse. It transpires that you're both a witness to and a suspect of a mass embrace, a supernatural terror attack in which a group of humans, including you, were assaulted on the street and illegally turned into vampires. Representatives from multiple factions, including the Camarilla, are present to watch your trial and execution. After recounting events from your perspective, however, a fire rages through the building, enabling your escape. Now there are actually some screenshots where you can actually see what this is. So we do have the first screenshot here of, a guy standing in front of us, and you clearly appear to be in a court setting. If you look kind of closely up on the rafters, you can see some of those faction representatives, standing there watching you. It's pretty much all up shit creek for you, basically. And then in this screenshot here, everything is on fire. Everything, literally. Look at it all. This is basically the embodiment of the "this is fine" meme, except you are the dog. So these two screenshots are from the beginning of the game, just going off of this description. As we go through this article, I will be giving my opinions here and there on some things that are said in this article, so keep that in mind as we go about this, but let's continue on to the next paragraph. Eventually, your vampire escapes from the courthouse basement into what appears to be a ruined underground city. Bloodlines 2 is set in contemporary Seattle, and the ruins belong to Old Seattle, which was almost literally paved over after a fire gutted the city in 1899. In your role as a vampire, Seattle's underground will play a significant part, although Paradox and Hardstone won't specify how just yet. Now this is interesting because in a couple previous videos that I've covered, I talked about in my clan predictions how I thought that this photo here in particular could, be linked to either the Nosferatu or the Malkavians. And we do see some snippets of this underground city, within the trailer, with the wave of blood that appears and, the blank hallway. It's all very shining like. So the confirmation that this is actually an underground city kind of makes the possibility of, getting the Nosferatu in the base game, quite likely. Because that would be a good place for the Nosferatu to hang out, in an underground city below Seattle. It just seems perfect in my opinion. If you look closely at the very, very far end of this corridor, you can see almost like a window that appears to be, closed in. And since we know that the underground part of Seattle was just, paved over and then rebuilt above on the ground, we now know that this isn't, a building that you can find on the street. This is underground with this information. So once again, it gives a bit more proof to the possibility of Nosferatu being confirmed. So with that said, let's continue. Hardstone is happy to discuss the reason for choosing Seattle as the setting, however. 1. We live here, which makes it a lot easier to gather reference. 2. The biggest thing about choosing Seattle as a location is it's underutilized as a setting. We first glimpse Seattle as we emerge onto the waterfront beneath Pier 57, its iconic Ferris wheel illuminated in neon lights. Moving towards the pier, a vampire encounters a man holding a mobile phone, which begins to ring. On the other end of the line is a mysterious woman, who instructs us on the basics of feeding. Now this is interesting because, obviously, we don't know who this woman is. It could be the lady in green. That is an option, Perhaps she is not the antagonist. Perhaps she's more of a, morally grey character that will, subtly appear here and there to give you, hints and tips on how to be a vampire. Basically how to basic, but the vampire edition. So that is a possibility, although I am slightly leaning more towards the antagonist side. but it is possible that she could also be a Morley Grey character. If it is that woman, it could be a completely different woman, who knows? After all, we've only seen 2 female characters so far, the lady in green and also the woman in red, her name being Lou. And, you know, we can't just jump the gun and assume it's one of the 2 characters. It could be a character that we haven't even seen yet. So, before we put our tinfoil hats on and assume it is the lady in green on the phone, let's just dial it back a little bit for now. Inside a building on the pier, a vampire is attacked by a group of thugs. Combat, particularly melee combat, was one of the weakest elements of the original Bloodlines. That I can confirm, although I'm primarily a melee gamer. I prefer the axes and the swords over the guns any day, because good lord, that was terrible. I do not like the guns in Bloodlines 1. Hardsuit wants to make certain that this is addressed in Bloodlines 2. We've been working on a first-person melee combat system for years, says Russ Nelson, CTO and co-founder of Hardsuit. We knew we needed to have that up-close and personal feeling when you're in a fight. After the fight, we encounter a man who turns out to be a fellow Thinblood created in the mass embrace. We don't get much time to compare notes, however, as he is immediately killed from behind by another vampire who whispers, "You're not on my list," to us before vanishing. Okay, Arya Stark. Good to see you here. One of the side quests in Bloodlines 2 involves looking for the remaining vampires created in the mass embrace, known as the Unsanctioned Seven. Now that sounds really interesting. I'm quite curious about that. You're the only Thinblood that you know, so being able to try and track down the other Thinbloods, I don't know if you get to talk to them or you just get to straight up kill them, I don't know. Perhaps that's part of, you becoming a full-fledged clan member, is you tracking down the remaining Thinbloods, and in return you get rewarded with, being welcomed into a clan of your choosing. Who knows? That's a potential angle. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. Now jumping a few sentences in the next paragraph, after the incident at the pier, for example, we travel to our first safe house, an apartment sublet by a reclusive vampire named Dale, who is our guide into the world of Bloodlines 2, much like Smiling Jack was in the original. He's also the first character you talk to at any length. As you'd expect, dialogue plays a huge role in Bloodlines 2, with your skills and abilities affecting your conversation options. Mitsoda was also keen to retain the noirish vibe and black humour of Bloodlines 1. Now, we do see Dale very briefly in the trailer. He's that fella with the curly hair who pours you a cup of blood. And I'm not gonna lie, I am quite excited to get to know this character just because he seems like a chill dude. I mean, look at what he's wearing. He's wearing fucking pajamas. He's wearing pajamas. I want to hang out with this guy. So after giving us the basics, Dale lets us into the apartment. Inside is a pinboard covered with notes and documents, put up by the fledgling vamp we just saw murdered by totally not vampire Arya Stark, as he tries to figure out who is responsible for his transformation. Bloodlines 2's approach to quest design is closer in spirit to the original than more modern RPGs, in the sense that quests won't be flagged by NPCs with exclamation marks floating above their heads. You'll need to explore to uncover new stories and adventures. Among the documentation, for example, is a missing cat poster. As you explore Seattle, you'll find greater concentrations of missing cat posters in certain areas, and if you take the time to investigate the phenomenon, you can eventually discover where all the cats have gone and why they have disappeared. I swear to God, if a vampire is murdering kittens, I am about to go full rage. I swear to God.
I would like to rage.
Both my vampire self in the game and me in real life. I'm a cat woman, okay? I love cats. I want to hug every cat, and if any cat is harmed, I will murder everything. Anyway, on to the next part. So that is the story of Bloodlines 2. Now there are a few extra snippets of info that I am going to cover, and they're mostly gameplay related, specifically involving hunters and breaking the masquerade, and how you can, get back in the good graces of the vampire world, so to speak. So let's check that out really quickly, and then I will sum up this video with my own thoughts and opinions on what we've discussed here today. A crucial part of this reputation is the masquerade, the code of conduct to which all vampires are expected to adhere. The keyword here is expected. You can violate the masquerade in small ways, such as being spotted feeding by another human, or bigger ways like going on a public rampage. Both will have ramifications for you in the city. People will be less likely to go out at night, meaning you'll have fewer bodies to feed on, while repeated violations may cause Seattle's chief vampire, Prince Cross, to send supernatural enforcers after you. And that sounds really cool. I like that. Like, the more you hunt recklessly in the city will affect the population. So it's like a butterfly effect, and I'm a big sucker for like butterfly effects in games. And these little decisions that you make here and there on like who you should kill, should you kill them, should you be careful with feeding, should you just go balls to the wall and be, you know, a bloodthirsty monster. You know, whatever decision you make will impact the environment around you. So that's a really cool attention to detail. Importantly, the masquerade isn't a one-way descent into chaos. You can restore your masquerade rating to a certain extent. One way to do this is to join Prince Cross's cleanup crew, which clears up the messes left behind by masquerade violating vampires. This one's actually pretty cool. I love the description of this particular quest. It honestly made me laugh the first time I heard it. The cleanup crew exemplifies the weirdness Mitsoda and Hardsuit are hoping to carry over from Bloodlines to the sequel. The organisation is run by a man named Bart, who has seen every horror imaginable and is completely numb to it. An early quest involves clearing the mess left behind after a disastrous romantic entanglement between a vampire and a human. If someone exploded in a small hotel room, that's what it would look like. You're just there to pick up the pieces. Literally, the pieces. And Bart just comments on whatever is there, eating his noodle soup. And that's just absolutely 100% ridiculous. Like, just pure chaotic energy. But at the same time, it sounds so interesting, and I'm 100% sold on that. I love those kinds of kooky side quests. So I'm definitely down to help out Bart. Even, like, if I'm not violating Masquerade, I hope that I can, you know, help a fella out regardless, because that sounds hilarious. Much more lighthearted than, you know, potentially finding murdered kitties. There's also a few ways that you can navigate quests. For example, if you choose the background of a police officer, then you don't need to break into the police station or find a back entrance. You could just walk right through the front. But apparently even this comes with complications. Your colleague will come to you and say, hey, where have you been the last 2 weeks? Social security is covered for you, but you need to get back to work. Now that's not really tied to any of the topics I mentioned, like, you know, hunters or cleanup crews or violating the masquerade. But I do think it's a really cool detail to note, because I like that you can pick your history in Bloodlines 1, and I'm really glad that's carrying over to Bloodlines 2. And it's cool that that's going to kind of impact the game a little, specifically to how you go about things. Overall, my opinion on this is that it sounds like a pretty interesting, you know, solid start to a story. Obviously, there's a callback to Bloodlines 1, you know. You start the night unconscious, you wake up, oh crap, you're a vampire, and you get immediately thrown into a situation where you're about to be executed just purely for existing. The only difference being is that you don't have some random dude in the crowd to, you know, shout out and say, hey, fuck you, let them live, thereby saving your ass. You have to escape yourself, find a way out to survive. I'm also very curious about this cat mission. I don't want to hurt kittens. What if it's an army of ghoul kittens? On one hand, I don't want to fight it, but at the same time, that would actually make me laugh. I kind of want to see that, just out of morbid curiosity. I'm hoping it's just, you know, a vampire cat lady who just really, really loves cats. But knowing the black humor of, you know, the previous game, that's probably not going to be the case. And that's all the information I'll be covering here today on Bloodlines 2 and the beginnings of the story. What do you guys think of the details of the story? Does it interest you? Are there some bits that you find a little meh? Is there anything in particular that you're specifically looking forward to, you know, exploring? Or characters that you're interested in getting to know? I know me personally, I'm curious about Dale. As always, let me know down in the comments below, and I would love to hear it. And also do stick around on my channel over the weekend, as I'll be delivering a crash course on the Bruja, the newly announced clan. Consider supporting me on Patreon, as it feels to grow for my content's quality and the variety and production of said content that you guys get to see, all here on the channel. And of course, as always, a huge thank you to my current patrons. They are Cosmoronic, Nicholas Montoya, Hatsgirl, Cooladora, Kay, and Zapfinouch. And if you want to see your name shouted out at the end of the video like these guys, do hop over onto Patreon and have a look around at the cool rewards on offer. Or if you don't want to deal with the whole monthly subscription stuff, do consider checking out my Ko-Fi. If an easy, breezy, or once-off donation is more your thing, do check that out. It is IceWire signing off, and I'll see you introverts later next time on the channel. Have a lovely day / night wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!